truth, this is the place for you. No need to complicate it, it's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken. If you need truth, this is the place for you. No need to complicate it, it's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.
All right, everybody, and Shabbat Shalom, or Shabbat Shalom to those of you outside of the continental US of A and the Caribbean islands. We speak Shabbat Shalom over your lives. We're trusting Yahweh will be with you in this time so you can hear him in clarity with all that he has to say unto you in this season and in this time. It is extremely important to know that in Shabbat is when we come before the Father to learn and to understand all things that are him. To those of you about to enter in, let us labor to enter into that beautiful and sweet rest that is of our Elohim. How beautiful it is, how wonderful it is, how dynamic it is to know who and what Yahweh wants from us toward us. That sounds weird, right? I know it does, but I want you to trust me on the statement. You know how that very specific I am about the words that we utilize and we express. All right, everybody. We want to get started with a word of prayer. Let's do that right now. Father, in the name of our Savior, who is YAHShua HaMashiach, we love, adore, magnify, exalt, and extol you, for you alone are holy. You alone are righteous. You alone are our Elohim, and we love you for it. We thank you for the Son, Adonai, that you gave us, wrapped him in flesh. We call him YAHShua HaMashiach. We thank you that you have given unto us his completed work, both by the prophecy of Pesach and the completion of Calvary's cross, which coincide and correlate one with the other. We're asking you now that these things we adhere to, these things we receive, these things we believe, according to Romans 10, that Father, if we believe Yahweh, you raise YAHShua from the dead, we shall be saved. We confess this with our hearts. We believe this with our hearts. We confess this with our mouths that Yahweh, you did this. Nobody but you, Yahweh. And we thank you for your great power that rested and resided inside of the pulchritude that is the person YAHShua HaMashiach. And by him, we now have an ensample of how salvation looks when we walk out the word, the living word. That is why he is known as the living word. Thank you for the example that ever lives now. And we are redeemed because of his completed work and his purpose and program. We love you today. I take opportunity to repent of my sins. Father, if we say we have not sinned, every last one of us lie. We sin every day, whether we know it or not, sometimes just in thought, sometimes in deed, sometimes in word. And Father, if we have been judging, if we have been gossiping, even if it's just a thought in our head, we want to take opportunity to repent. If we've been covetous, Father, maybe even lusting after something that doesn't belong to us, something as simple as a car or a position or a title or a ministry or a job or a organization or a business, we take opportunity, I do, to repent now and let you know that the light of your word shines all over the dirt in my world. Whether it's hidden and nobody can see it, just me and my own, or it's something that I've done out in public and or in open. Your blood never loses its power, but your blood is only effective when the light of your word shows, shines, and reveals the issues that are within. So I ask you now, shine your light in my life, in my mind, in my heart, for out of my heart flow the issues of my life. What's in my heart comes out of my mouth. What's in my heart comes out of my deeds and my actions and my critical thinking. Take over, I pray you. And as we enter into Shabbat, I render all of me at the door and I shake it off and ask you to reform, I bring my clay to you, the great potter, and place my clay in your hands. Put me on the wheel, heat me up, water me down with your word, reform what I have deformed, transformed what I have unformed, and grant me, I pray you, alignment with you again in righteousness' sake. Father, I take no chances. For if you should take my breath within the next 40 minutes, I want to be able to stand before you knowing that my heart is filled with you and my life, your blood, and my heart, your words. So here we stand today, because man can't live by bread alone, but only by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of you, Yahweh, our Elohim. Not our church jargon, not our cute little epithets, not our wonderful coined phrases, but Father, from your word. You are the Elohim who created decent and who has given order. And we look to follow you in that way. In the precious, mighty, and the matchless name of YAHShua HaMashiach, we pray. And we say, Amen. Well, welcome again to the proceeding word as we begin to enter into our seventh day of the week. We're just about there in a few hours. And I chose today to do a few things. We started talking about our subject matter on, I think it was either last night's Bible book club, or was it in fact, it might have been Wednesday night's Bible study. We do a lot of teaching and a lot of broadcasting about the Torah. But I want to make sure we understand something, and I'm going to start into this program, and then I'm going to make a public service announcement in the middle of this particular program today. So you don't want to tune out. You don't want to be unattentive. You do want to pay attention. And I'm hoping that my moderators have complied with making sure that all of our other mods are on platform today, for there seems to be something lurking that we need to get a real good grasp upon. All righty. But we talk about sacrifice, and we sing the songs of Zion. We sing some of the hymns that have been put forward and brought forth about sacrifice. I want to just take an opportunity, as you know me to do, and share my Bible with you guys later on today about what it means to sacrifice and what the word sacrifice means, where it comes from, what it actually entails, how that looks. Because what we do in Christendom, Pastor Spencer, I don't know if you can talk, but can you give me 13 seconds if it's possible?
Yes, sir.
All right, Pastor Spencer, what do we do in Christendom with words and phrases we do so well and then think they're still right? What do we do? What's that word you use?
We repurpose them.
We repurpose a whole lot of stuff, and then we make that the gospel. But if you understand what the writ states to us, in all of our getting, we should get understanding. That's right. Thank you so much, Pastor Spencer. And for all of us who understand that and know that, we say it, right? We always scream it. Yes, and all you're getting, get understanding. That's right. Ooh, amen. But as soon as the situation comes to our doorstep, we forget the amen we gave at the reveal. And then we fall into the vacuum of our repurposed, nurtured nature. So I want to really take opportunity to bring something to light for us about sacrifice. We love the songs of Zion. Again, as I've told you before, we bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahweh. But I want us to really understand what sacrifice means. And people think that, oh, we bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahweh. Oh, we bring the sacrifice of praise. Y'all hear how jovial that is and upbeat that is? Of the Lord. Here we go. Watch this. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. And we get the vibrato going, and we hold the note, and we dance, and we spin around, and we lift our hands, and we do it like it is not a sacrifice. See, sacrifice is painful. Sacrifice is a calculated extraction of a need and or a provision from your existence and your sustainability system to give to Yahweh because he asked for it. Can I help somebody understand what a sacrifice looks like? A sacrifice is when I know I should, I don't know, do something and I restrain myself. I'm hurting myself not to hurt you. Y'all going to talk to me about 12 minutes from now. A sacrifice is when I, in fact, know something that is true and I have to help bring others into a knowledge of its truth. And I can't give up on you and say, since you don't want to learn, get all that you do and the hell you bring away from me. See, sacrifice says they just don't know. Be patient. Watch this. Watch this. Be compassionate. Watch this. Watch this. Be considerate. Watch this. Watch this. Be empathetic because you too once were that way. See, that's a sacrifice. Anybody know that we can get to a place where we can say, yo, at this point, it's just me, my four, and no more. I don't care about nobody else. I don't care about nothing else. And we then bail out on something. Though we have the power and the strength to stay, the pain it causes, the frustration it causes, the indignant that it might raise up out of me, it could possibly present. I have to sacrifice and sort of kind of quell and make myself, watch this. It's a sacrifice to do what Paul said. Let me finish the thought about me, and then I'm going to switch to Paul. It is a sacrifice for me not to drop something that doesn't want to be held. And yet, because Yahweh says, hold on to it until it conforms. That's a sacrifice. Anybody want to take a couple of seconds while I find this one passage about Paul to say amen or ooh or ouch or wow?
Yes. I mean,
so when we talk about what Paul was saying here in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, I found it. I want everybody to go there. If you're calling in, if you're listening in on Clubhouse, you may want to go to VWJ Ministries on Facebook or VWJ Ministries on YouTube to see the passages of the Bible. You may be at work. I know the other hemispheres, barring the U.S., continental U.S. of A. and the Caribbean islands, are probably off. So you guys should have your Bibles open anyway. And then those of you who are at work, because you're still working in the continental U.S. of A., I want you to also look at the passage. So I'm going to help you. So let's get it up on the screen. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. I want everybody to go there. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. And I want someone to tell me when you see it. Somebody shout sacrifice. All right. When you see it, I want you to shout sacrifice, not when you get the passage, but when you see it. So I want to put this before you so we can understand what in fact sacrifice is. I want to show it to you so you get it. And some might say, well, that ain't no sacrifice. Well, let's just watch and see what the apostle had to say while he was working his work to a church, much like modern day Christendom, who are not of Israeli blood. Watch. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. I'll put on the screen for you right now so you can see it. Sorry, I was insufficient in my job here. Paul makes a statement here. I'm still trying to get it on the screen. There we go. Finally got it up on platform. All right. Everybody there? If y'all there, say amen. Let me know you're there. Come on.
amen. Amen.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. And moderators, y'all should be the first ones. Let me know y'all there. Flash your mics. If you can't talk, do something. Let me know you're there. Give me an emoji or something. Today, we're going to do stuff in order. That's why we're mods. All right. So if we're not participating, the way we participate will be the way any following we have participate. So we want to make sure we participate in order. Thank you. Appreciate you. Let's now watch. Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1. I'm going to bring us to verse 5 at that time so that we can understand what that looks like. All right. So he says in verse 1, now I, Paul, myself, beseech you, by the meekness and the gentleness of Messiah, who, when I'm present among you, I am base among you. But When I'm absent from you, I am bold towards you and your efforts at this kingdom life. That's really what he's saying. Verse 2. But I beg of you, I beseech you, that I may not be bold when I'm present with that confidence wherewith I think to be bold against some that I need to be putting in check, which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh. Some of y'all never read this way, but you're going to learn today. Somebody say, I'm going to learn today. Say, I'm going to learn today. I'm going to learn today. Follow the storyline. Follow the storyline. I'm going to reread verse 2. But I beg you that I may not be bold when I'm present, because if I say what I say when I'm present, it could go left. That's why I need to say what I need to say when I'm away from you, so it can be received, and I don't have to deal with what I see on your face or your expression in your body when I'm sharing with you this boldness of truth. Because verse 2, but I beseech you that I may not be bold when I'm present with that confidence wherewith I think to be bold against some of y'all, which think of us as a group as if we walk according to the flesh. See, I get frustrated with folk like that real quick. And if I'm in your face and I say what I say, you might not like it. It might be best for me to have these letters written to you and then you read them. Does anybody hear Paul's heart?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hit a little different, don't it? Moderators, please make sure everybody has a microphone in the platform today. Make sure everybody's got a microphone. If you're in the room, we want you to have a microphone. Please join us so we can all talk and share, and we can listen one the other and understand what we're saying. So Paul says in verse number 3, for though we walk in the flesh, we don't war after the flesh. See, the weapons of our warfare, those of us who don't war after the flesh, though we walk in it. Somebody say, I walk in my flesh. I do. I walk in my flesh. Come on.
I walk in my flesh.
But I refuse to war after the flesh mindset.
Yeah.
Say that.
But I refuse to my flesh mindset.
Verse number 4 says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through Elohim to the pulling down of strongholds. Ooh. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim, and bringing into captivity every thought that I have in my knowledge of good and evil mind, in my I know church mind, in my I know the Holy Ghost told me mind, in my I understand God mind, in my God talks to me mind. Y'all gonna get this in just a few more minutes. I'm gonna take my time about it because this is gonna be a slow cook. I'm entering the Shabbat, and once I get in there, I'm in his cover. So before I say this, I'm gonna throw this stone and get going. Watch this. But I'm gonna come help you pick it up too. Watch. He says, but casting down, verse 5, imaginations that I have, and every high thing in my life that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim, who I say I serve, and I gotta bring into captivity every thought in my head. I gotta bring into captivity every thought to understand and watch me work obedience of Messiah. And then have in a readiness to revenge all disobedience from within me when disobedience is fulfilled.
That sounds like a sacrifice. Sacrifice.
That's a sacrifice. If I got to pull down what I think in order to obey Elohim, That's the sacrifice. What about sacrifice do we not understand? Because we've made sacrifice as if it is, watch this, a cute offering. It is an offering out of our abundance. Sacrifice is not an offering out of your abundance. A sacrificial offering of your time is the most valuable thing you could have. So when I, in fact, take time with elements that refuse to be educated and learn it, I have to calculate and say the pain I'm going to endure listening through a mindset and a mentality I've already come through, counseled through with others many times to success. I'm calculating this pain of enduring the dialogue because I know my pain will bring them great joy in the end, and that is a sacrifice. When you waste time, that is a bad thing. If you give time, time is a part of your sustainability cycle and system of life for your existence. You must value your time. Your time is a sacrifice. Your finances inside the church or outside of the church is a part of your sustainability cycle and process for existence in an earth that Yahweh gave you. There is nothing about sacrifice that does not say you have to exert serious energy that will cause you pain, ultimately, sweat, a cardio workout, ultimately, bring you into a condition and a space and a place of understanding or what have you that one would need to realize and embrace is going to be, in some cases, an arduous task. And that is a sacrifice. Now, what we intend to do in the proceeding word is to always make sure we show the parallels that are relevant in our modern day world that we have not considered a part of Yahweh's instructions, because we always repurpose things. You cannot repurpose, recycle, a sacrifice. I mean, you can, because you can do whatever you want. You can be like T.I. You can have whatever you like. But the word of Elohim, when it comes to sacrifice, is extremely important. So let's look at what we mean when we talk about sacrifice. So the word sacrifice is extremely important. It is a word that brings us to a place of comprehension about drawing something from what you have. So when Yahweh says, bring something from your herds, that's a sacrifice. When Yahweh says, bring this from your dwelling, if it's in your dwelling, listen before you just tune off like many people do because you don't know how deep this goes. If it's in your dwelling, it is a part of your sustainability process. If it's in your storehouse, that's from your abundance. Y'all gonna make me do it. It ain't even Sabbath yet, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Whoa! Whoa!
If it's in your dwelling, it is a part of your sustainability cycle. This is a calculated budget. If it's in your storehouse, that's from your abundance. So when Yahweh says in the writ, pull this from your dwelling, pull this from your herd, that's a sacrifice. I had planned to make some money with that. I had planned to do this with that. But Yahweh wants it. Your first fruits. If you look at a tree, if you take what Yahweh said through YAHShua HaMashiach in John chapters 15, I believe it is. I may be wrong by one chapter. I think it's 15. I am the vine, my Father, Yahweh, is the husbandman. Any branch in me that bears not fruit, Yahweh snatches it away. But any branch, but any branch in me that is bearing fruit, you know, I think any tree finally pushing forth some fruit, if that tree could talk, they like, yes, yes, I did it. Woo, yes, woo, I pushed that out. Y'all know Ike told Tina, push that out, Tina, when she was singing. You better push it out, you know. And y'all, it's cute to y'all. But if you understand that to push something out, it means you had to use a great deal of energy to exert and to apply and push that thing out. That's an actual accomplishment that you are depending on. You have labored over it. You have waited for it. You have nurtured it. You have watered it. You have put sunlight on it. You got up in the morning to make sure that it was okay. You went down at night to make sure you protected it. Everything about this particular production, you are keenly involved in, and you have an expectation of benefit from, and you've labored to secure that benefit. And then YAHShua says, any branch having done all that, that does bear fruit, bearing fruit that you are true, that you are real. And then they have Yahweh come and take that fruit. Wait a minute, Yahweh. Man, why you take that? But we will automatically go and get upset because he took the first fruit, because that fruit is proof that we're doing what needs to be done. And this is the thing. And we get upset because Yahweh says, give it to me. Yeah, but I did give it to me. You don't know what I went through. You don't know my labor. You don't know how long I suffered. You don't know how long I had to bear under and stay in the rain and make sure that the birds didn't come and take the seed at the ground, and the gophers and the rabbits didn't come and dig up this tree before it was ever be. And now you're going to tell me that, so all this was in vain? I just did this for you? Yeah, you did actually. But here's the catch. If I take your first fruit, I do it so you bring forth more fruit. We never get past the part of why he took it, because we get stuck at the fact that he took it.
That part.
And if you don't understand the why of his take, you'll never be able to receive what's about to be your income. See, once the Father takes the fruit from the branch that's in obedience to the trunk of the tree, then the Father causes the nutrients of the tree to rush to the insult. Medically, an insult, I should say, rather a laceration, an insult to the body, something that has impaled it, something that has caused it to leak out or be compromised. So what happens is, in order to clot that thing up and make it stronger, the little branch that finally brought forth its first fruit is still weak. It's still limp, but it is productive. It has the potential for production. And once Yahweh says, you can't grow with this fruit. I need you to sacrifice it. I need you to trust me with it. I need you to give it to me. Y'all, this is not about your daggone money. This ain't about no offering. So get your head out of the typical thought that you would see in a Christendom conversation about this. I'm talking about your life, not your daggone money. Thank you for showing me that, Ruach. Oh, there he goes talking about this ain't got nothing to do with money. And if that's what you think, kick rocks. That little limb, no matter what the production is, whether it's the beginning of your ministry, you wait on your ministry. Your ministry will take years to come out of you. The thing you do that the world will see you for, you're doing automatically every day, but there are still keys and cues and slips and falls and ups and downs and misinterpretations and misunderstandings that you will have to have your failures in order to operate out of a successful construct. So that little branch that's pushed out, that fruit, Yahweh says, I need you to trust me. Now, when I tell you to give it to me, don't ask me no questions. Just give it to me. Because when I take it from you, that triggers the tree to go into protection mode and to go into provision mode for that branch. So for those of you who don't know what happens, as a person who has had 2 companies in horticulture and 2 landscaping companies, not grass cutting companies. We do implants, we do arbor trees, we do arbor regulations. We do what we do to make your lawn beautiful, successful, kill out crabgrass, understand what type of soil you need, whether you're sandy, whether you're dry, whether you're clay, whether you're regular, whether you're mud, whether you're muck. We work on making sure your lawn flows and prospers, your trees prosper in the process of horticulture. So what many don't know is that, oh, he just take the fruit. No, there's a whole system that gets engaged. Once that fruit is plucked, broken from that branch, that pod, once it's broken from that outlet point, that spout, if it stays on that spout, that tree limb will have minimal production. Once you now see that there is a flow, that the vine of the tree is pushing through that branch, now for that branch to be something formidable, something real, something forceful and productive, you have to give it help. And that branch is about to give up everything it had been waiting to produce. And once it does, the Father, the husbandman, Yahweh, the husbandman, this is what's called husbandry. He fertilized that tree. He knows he's got to snap this off. And if that branch could talk, they're going to go, why? Oh, why did you have to leave? All right, that's what's going to happen. That branch could talk. Why are you taking my, why? And Yahweh's like, this is a necessity. You have to give me this. You got to trust me. And when you sacrifice that, he takes that particular element you fought, bled over, cried over, carried in your womb 9 months. Even your firstborn son, Yahweh says, give him to me. Women, the greatest sacrifice you have that we've not been taught. And the reason we don't understand sacrifice is because in our own medical arena of childbirthing, I'm going to say something that I know is going to shock the world. It's going to shock those of you listening, because you may not, or you may. If you do know, it won't shock you. But if you don't know, it's going to shock you. Women, the reason we don't really understand sacrificing in church is because we're primarily a women-driven scenario. And though there are men, most men are not really in the kingdom. They're in the organization of empireship, trying to make their own selves great. And now we got women mocking that, trying to be just like that, and think that being great is going to be based on advertising the kingdom rather than living it. So here's what I want to say to you, women. You actually are to epitomize the greatest sense of sacrifice, because the seed of man is planted in you. Now, man is supposed to be a husband. He is supposed to be operating in husbandry once seed is planted in you. He's supposed to be making sure that you're getting your proper hydration. He's supposed to make sure you're getting your proper rest. He's supposed to make sure you're getting your proper, whatever you need to have a proper natal experience and every trimester you go through, right? He's supposed to be there to make sure, right? But you and I know that men don't. So women sacrifice and they make it happen no matter what. So brothers, yes, I'm calling you to the carpet, because I've lived this. And I'm not going to tell you to do nothing I didn't do. But we don't understand that in Christian. We just think that women just have babies. That's just what it is. No, it's a whole process. Just like the tree YAHShua was talking about in John 15. I promise you, I'll make the parallel make sense. So when a man gives seed to a woman, he is to be her husbandry. That's why you should never have a child outside of marriage, because you don't have a husband. And Mr. Husbandman who has a child outside of marriage, you don't have a committed ground. Anybody can come and sow seed in that ground and take whatever seed is in that ground and abuse it any way it wants. I just gave y'all revelation that should have made your hair just rise and it's on the back of your neck.
Yeah, that was good.
Yes, it was.
No, it just blew the hair back. No, I had to pick myself up off the floor.
So I want you to understand that husbandry is where you get husband from. So while the seed is in the ground, the husband is fertilizing, watering, irrigating, getting sunlight, taking away anything that could cause it to flood out, make sure that the ground is properly pH balanced. And that's what husbandry is all about. So I need y'all to catch this, understand this, embrace this because of what it is. Now look closely, listen closely, and we move very, very smooth into this next piece. When the father sows that seed into his wife, who is to be the mother, they are to work as a team. Once, here's sacrifice, ladies. Here's sacrifice, ladies. Here is sacrifice, ladies. Once the woman bears the pain, the toxicity in the ankles, the toxemia, the morning sickness, the cravings, the weirdness in the gut, the nausea that goes on, the fighting, the pushing on the spleen, the pushing on the on the uterus, the pushing, not uterus, but the bladder, all that goes on inside of that womb while a life is forming, kicking, moving, rolling, punching. You fall in love with what you're caring for. Watch the sacrifice. You can go to Genesis 3:15 and 16. Look at the actual first true sacrifice you and I were supposed to do. Once that woman pushes that child out, the child goes to the father. The child is taken from the mother, and by kingdom, Elohim, by your instructions of Elohim, Genesis 3:16, go look at it. You will give that child to the father because it's the father's seed. You duplicated that man in the earth. That child belongs to the father. Hold it before you crucify me. And that mother, her love doesn't go to the child. Her love goes to the husband. And he, having been a proper husband to her in birth, is a recipient of that love because they both know what they've come through to make this child healthy and deliverable. And he now brings that child back to his woman, and they now make this a home. But that sacrifice of, well, I spit him out. I did. My body. And I get all the legalities that we're in today about, women's right to choose. I'm not getting into any of that. I'm just talking biblical from the creation before there were all these laws per nation, per movement. That's the core. So when that woman has to go through all she goes through and pushes it out, she parallels that branch. That woman should only be holding the seed because she's in her husband's house. So that would parallel with any branch in me. So if they're not in you, you're not going to get that seed out. You're not going to get that production out of them. So any branch in me that bears fruit, he purges it so it can bring forth more. But if you get caught up in the task you just had, you miss the purpose for that first. And you miss the purpose for what perceives to be a sacrifice. You have to give that up because you've been 9 months in this process. Can't wait to see it. And as soon as you get to see it, contrary to what we do in our culture in the medical arena today, and I am not coming for any of that, but what we do is we make a mistake. We take the child and we put it on the mother's breast. It seems like the appropriate thing to do, but it is not. It is not. It is not what Elohim said to do. You give that child to the father. Then the father brings it back to his wife. Sounds weird, Apostle, you being deep again. Yep, I surely am, because deep calls to deep. And if you didn't get it, well, let's work. Let's keep studying together. And I don't say that to be arrogant, but we repurpose so much stuff. Sacrifice is painful. Did that woman come through pain? But if you understand the purpose of sacrifice, you'll endure the pain to get what's on the other side of the sacrifice. Now, I'm not talking about somebody, I'm not, again, this ain't about no daggone money, but I know the first thing that people think about is, sacrifice is really the only place in the church is where we talk about it. And then when we talk about sacrifice, you got to get a sacrificial offering and you got to sacrifice to God. And I know if it don't meet the need, it's a seed. That's not the sacrifice we talking about. That's a hope. That's a scam. I said it. Do I need to stand up to prove my toes is down on the ground, or do y'all just know what I'm standing with 10 toes down?
10 toes down. You got it.
When you're talking about a sacrifice, you're talking about something that is a part of your calculated and budgeted world that Yahweh is saying, all right, you're making the efforts to be obedient to me. I see what you've done to get this far. Good job. Now I'm going to come and take what I want out of it so I can give you what you need. But you can't see what he wants as meeting your need. It's taking away from what you think is his need, and it's not. But when we have this repurposed identity of sacrificial offering, where we play this game in church, where people now take this opportunity to say, oh, you got to sacrifice to God on what edict? Yeah, it got to cost you something. Yeah, it does. But the it costing you something is an it from his instruction, not a it from somebody's whimsical ideal during a program that they have counted. Well, we got 362 people in this room. I can probably get about 80 people per person. Yeah, that'll help me. That'll help me out a lot. I'm sorry. It's almost Sabbath. I just like to make sure y'all know what you're dealing with. And I'm not narking. That's just not the process. So when we think about the fact that someone says, God said for you to give this much money, like, I ain't got it. Well, you know, that's God. That's his MO. You ain't got it. You got to give it to him. And it's going to hurt you. That's different. That's a different pain altogether. That's not the sacrifice of him. And when you've now come through a process of sacrifice, you look forward to the next process of sacrifice because you know what sacrifice looks like on the other side. Once it's done, once it's completed, once compliance is taken forward. Same thing goes, and I use money because that's the one y'all know about, but this goes to everything in your life. This goes towards your believed ministry. Everybody thinks that you being in ministry is about proving you are somebody dynamic in the world. Just keep living and live right. Everybody will know your dynamic is good and the world will take note. But we are in a rush to be something great, and Yahweh hasn't called us to do that. Yahweh's called us to live great. Just be. And we think that we got to be heard and seen because now we have this element where we got coaching and mentoring. I am not mad about anybody's grind. Make your money, fit in where you get in, but do not connect that to the kingdom and then try to propagate that as this is how God blesses you. The reason you're blessed is because you gave a sacrifice, and Psalms 1 tells you what that looks like. Psalms 1 says, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of ungodly, nor stand in way of sinner, nor sit in seat of scornful, but his delight is in the Torah of Yahweh our Elohim. Whatever's in that Torah that he asked for, we give him. That's a sacrifice. To obey Torah is a sacrifice, especially now because you were born into sin. You were shaped in iniquity. You have to pull every thought that you have been nurtured in, now that you know Torah, into the obedience of the Torah. You got to do that. You have to do that. If you don't bring your thoughts, your grand ideals, your inspiration, your aspirations under the compliance of the writ, that is not a sacrifice, because we have purpose in our mind in many instances without knowing it, that we are our own gods. And whatever thoughts we have, they are equivalent to God. And therefore, when I hear me say in my head something 3 to 4 times, I think that must be God. And in fact, it is God, because you're your own God. Because the only voice you listen to is your voice. I get so sick. I almost vomit in my mouth every time I hear somebody say, God told me, Ruach told me, the Holy Ghost told me. Y'all stop. If it ain't in that writ, and if it is in the writ and it is instructional, which it's supposed to be, it will not be the voice of God ominously in your ear. It will be your voice, whether you're a soprano, whether you're an alto, a tenor, or a bass. It will be your freaking voice you hear. And if it's not in the word and you make a move on something you have planned, it will be your voice that says, push the button. It will be your voice that says, pull the trigger. It won't be the voice of God. Then again, is it? I've played God a long time. And this is my testimony to you. Quiet on the platform, proceeding word, I'm going to keep moving. So, when Messiah says, every branch in me that bears fruit, he purges it. Why does he purge it? Purging is a sacrifice. You don't think it's a sacrifice? Let me ask you a question. What do you do when Elohim comes at you with a knife? What do you do if your dad, who you love, comes at you with a knife and has you wrapped up and on a sacrifice table, and you know what happens on this table? And he got the knife for it in his hand over top of your chest. What do you do when the Father comes at you with a knife to prune you? Is he killing you so that you die there?
No.
But if you comply to his instruction, then the storyline that goes along with this on the other side of through, when YAHShua and Yahweh came at him technically with a knife for him to die according to the instructions, he then justified many. Does that sound like a pruning process? He takes the first fruit so that you will bear much more fruit. See, Messiah sacrificed his life. You want to know about a sacrifice? You go to Isaiah 53 and read it, and stop reading it so you can talk about the cross, but read it so you understand the sacrifice. Stop reading it so you can talk about the blood that Yeshua shed for me. And you sing it so happy. Way back on Calvary, oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day. We so happy about it, but that was a sacrifice for him. He had to be whipped. That his flesh had to be ripped open. That's why he went into the garden. He said, Father, look, this sacrifice, these people don't understand sacrifice. They don't even know what I'm about to do for them. I don't think that their energy matches my energy. Can there be a way I not do this right now? I don't think they've matched the energy of compliance when I put forth this sacrifice in the earth. Now, was Yeshua being fleshy? Yep. Yeah, he was. That's why I rock with him. That's why I love Yeshua, because I promise you, I'm a lot like him. He a lot like me. I'm like, I don't see a balance here. If I do this, I'm gonna die, and they're gonna go on laughing. Matter of fact, these jokers are trying to. They're the reason I'm going to die. I came to die for them, but they're also the reason I'm going to die. They're going to be the ones that kill me. They don't even understand the death. They don't even understand the purge. They don't even understand the prune. But Yahweh in his infinite wisdom is like, never says a word to him. Just do what I told you to do, son. Stop thinking. But yeah, but Father, you see them. They tried to punch me in the face. I had to disappear in the crowd twice last week. I had to move out the way and talk to them in certain ways. I got to give them parables when I talk to them. I can't even talk straight to them because they be tripping. Now they get mad. They start trying to stone me. They plotting how they're going to get me. They don't know that I can see their heart. They don't know that I can see their plan. And that's how I avoid them. But Father, I really ain't feeling like dying for them. Somebody shout, it's a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice.
But the flesh, and Yeshua was 100% flesh. The flesh stood up in that moment where the rubber meets the road. Yeshua ain't never fought back against one of Elohim's instructions until that day, that moment. That's a sacrifice. He had to pull every thought. Did he not?
Yes, he did.
He had to pull that thought into subjection to the obedience of the word. He asked the Father 3 separate times in that night, an hour each time. Do y'all know what that represented? Do y'all know what that typed for us to see? Do y'all know the typecast, the shadow of that we saw with that? Do y'all know what that looks like is?
No.
Explain it, sir.
Yeshua was a body made to carry the Adonai in the earth. The Adonai he followed, the Adonai is always the articulation of the thoughts of Yahweh. The Adonai is the source that causes Ruach HaKodesh to perform. So Yahweh is the thought, Adonai is the articulator of the thought, and once articulated, Ruach HaKodesh completes the thought. Just read Genesis chapter 1, all the proof you need. So when Yeshua goes up the first time, he tells the boys, y'all sit here and you better pray for yourselves, because for the first time in your ministry with me, you've never had me tell you to pray for yourself, because right now I'm in my flesh. Oh, y'all didn't get that? Because I know I'm warring in my mind against an instruction that was divine. And right now, while I'm in this state, I know you're not covered by me at this point. So pray that you don't enter into temptation. That's why he was angry when he came back down. And they sitting out there asleep because they had become complacent. They had become entitled. Oh, Yeshua's here. We good. Don't worry about it. It's all good. He like, y'all, I'm going through right now. But y'all know what? Y'all so spoiled. I get it. But you better pray for yourself, because right now I am not in the state of mind that you have always had covering you. This is why I rock with YAHShua. He even told them, my head ain't right now. Y'all pray for yourself.
Yes, sir. I can relate to that.
So what we want you to understand is that when this moment comes, he goes to the Father. Remember the 3 hours? He goes the first time. He comes back, he finds them sleep. See, that's all we pay attention to, so pastors can talk about the ministers in the church. How y'all, I'm up here laboring in the spirit, and y'all, he wasn't laboring in the spirit. He was laboring in his flesh, trying to get back into the spirit. Oops, right, that part. He wasn't laboring in the spirit. He was laboring in his flesh. He was trying to find a way to pull back the thought he had to not die right now. I ain't feeling it.
Sacrifice.
That's right. I asked y'all, when y'all get it, just say sacrifice. Because he could have walked away at any moment. That's why you sing the song. He didn't have to do it, but he did. Sacrifice. I'm so glad he sacrificed his life. Think about it and stop being churchy, because you have to do the same thing he did every day, every choice, every instruction he gives you. You have to sacrifice to comply with it. You have to sacrifice when your leadership is mentoring you and counseling you and teaching you. You have to sacrifice when you're working with your children. You have to sacrifice everything in your life, and it will always be a cost. Messiah prayed 3 hours that night, 3 separate times. First time he went up, came back, they were asleep. Second time he went up, came back, they were asleep again. Third time he came back, he's like, just sleep on. And then it happened. He went up and asked all 3 elements of, he tried to wiggle his way through. So he praying to Elohim 3 different times, which matches the 3 different attributes of him. He made sure he approached each throne, and none of them replied to him. Elohim did not reply because he already had the divine instruction. Just do the job. Get out your daggone feelings. Get out your flesh. I want you to die here. You will be elevated. Messiah is not elevated yet. He doesn't even have on the top of the cross the King of Kings. Here is the King of Kings in 3 different languages yet. You got to die out to your flesh first. And some of us have so many grand plans, we think that that's our elevation. Can I make it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Go back to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Look at it. Now I, Paul, myself beseech you with meekness and gentleness that we saw in Messiah. Messiah didn't fuss at the boys. He made them know that you guys are putting yourselves at risk. I am right now not where I need to be. So y'all need to be praying. Y'all don't enter into temptation. Messiah then left them to go back up before the Father and make his petition known there. Father, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me, please. Yahweh don't say nothing. Comes down, goes back up. Adonai, please, if it be the will of the Father, let this cup pass from me. Doesn't say nothing. Goes back up an hour later. in the next hour. Ruach HaKodesh, if it be the will of the Father, can you help me, remind me of the words, show me where in fact I can pause this, because I ain't feeling it. I mean, I don't feel like it. They call my mama a whore. They call me a charlatan. They call my mom's husband a chump, and they always they always pick it on me. I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do the other. I don't feel like dying for them. In your flesh, you do a lot of feeling. In the spirit, you do compliance. The spirit can be willing, but the flesh is weak. And if the flesh is in the way, even YAHShua encountered that. That's why he's my high priest, because he has been touched by the feelings of all of our infirmities. And yet, he pulled, that's what Paul is saying here. He pulled his thoughts into captivity, into the obedience of the word inside of him. That's what Paul is saying here. I beg you, my brothers, by meekness. I beg you again, verse 2, that because I can be bold about this, I can be arrogant about this, I can be direct with y'all and not have any compassion or gentleness to you at all. I pray that I'm not with that kind of boldness when I'm in your presence, because I got confidence in what I'm saying. Verse 2, wherewith I think that I should cut this person's head off for what they're doing and saying, and still be justified by the writ in it, but I got to do it like Messiah did it. Because if I do it like Paul did it, it just won't glorify the Father quite right well, like Moshe did. Yeah, Moshe used the word, yeah, the rock brought forth water, but then Moshe got in his flesh and his boldness and his confidence, and he struck the rock, and that didn't let Yahweh be looked right. That didn't cause a right look for Yahweh at that moment. I don't know what Yahweh will do. So it's good for me that I'm not in their presence with that boldness, but rather now that I'm away from you, I can write boldly to you of the same confidence, and it can be taken different, because my energy while I'm saying it to you in your presence, in my pulchritude, might trigger you, and then I might have to put you down, or you try to put me down. But I can get this across better to you when I'm away from you in a letter. Did y'all ever see that in the writ?
No, sir.
He says, for though we walk in this flesh, we all got to walk in this flesh, yet you and I, we got to be careful not to war after the flesh. Our weapons are not carnal. It's the word of Elohim. It's mighty through Elohim when we use his word, and it pulls down strongholds that give us these obstacles in our world. He says, and then we have to be mindful to cast down, verse 5, every imagination and high thing that exalts itself against our knowledge of Elohim. And then we got to bring those things we got to bring them into captivity. You ever try to arrest somebody that doesn't want to be arrested? You ever try to bring somebody into compliance that does not want to be in compliance? That needs to be restrained because they're about to hurt themselves. They just think they know so daggone much, and they don't realize they're about to hurt themselves, and you still have to fight them while they kneeing you, punching you, kicking you, biting you, talking about, I know what I'm doing. Get off of me. Get off of me. I've told y'all my experience as a lifeguard. And that's when I left lifeguarding. We out there and in training, Stony Point, name of the lake, man-made lake, had some problems with suction holes, and somebody got caught in one. And we're going out there to get him. And when we get out there to get him, he is swearing he know how to swim. Well, if you knew how to swim, we wouldn't be out here trying to get you out. And he is screaming and howling, flicking. We had to knock him out. Otherwise, he'd have got all of us in trouble in that same suction. We had to knock him out to save his life because he knew so much. The more you struggle against that suction, you're going to create more velocity. We got to calmly get you out of here. So we literally he wilding and punching. He could have knocked one of us out, and we could have been sucked in, and he could have still been sucked in, and it could have been ugly. So in order to make sure we all got out, we had to kill the loudest objective element in the room, and we had to knock him out. Literally, we had to knock him out. Literally, we had to make him and render him unconscious. We needed him to be dead weight. And it's not fun carrying dead weight in water to get him back to shore. So all of us could be saved. And we went to save you because your butt thought you could go out past the line we drew to tell all swimmers, as long as you stay on this side of the line, you're good. But you thought you knew so daggone much. You went swimming past the line. Now you passed the line in the danger zone we told you existed. Well, I've seen other people go past there. Okay, that's fine. They made it. But you never know when it's going to stir up. You don't understand current. You don't understand undercurrent. So now you're out past the line. We told you you don't go past. You're out of order. You're out of line. You're out of place. Now we got to come off of watching the other people, the young people, have fun and make sure that they're having a fun moment because you felt like taking a risk and going outside of the perfectly safe boundaries we set for you. And now myself in training, this is when I stopped it. And Tony Pierce, my cousin and my trainer, we had to swim out and get him with our buoys. Once we swam out to get him, he was glad to see us, but he's wailing and flailing and throwing and fighting, and he ain't getting nowhere. And we're trying to say, hey man, chill out. Tony had, well, we had to render him unconscious to let his body stop making suction underwater so we can carry him on top the water where it was calmer. And carry him back to safety. See, we sacrificed to get him. And in that, there is so much to consider. Now, these practical applications sort of kind of try to help us do the things that we do in the ways that we have to do them for the benefit of learning what kingdom is like. And kingdom and church are very much different. Kingdom and church are very much different. Kingdom and church are very much different. Just because you think you can swim, when we tell you, hey, listen, I know you can swim. Even I am careful when I go past this border. And we had to learn going past this border what the water looked like before we even tried to swim across it. Because the current gets different after this ledge that drops in the basin that you don't see. And because you don't see it, and all you see is the water on top, and it looks like it's all the same, once you get past this ledge, there is a suction, there is a swirl, there is an undercurrent that takes place, but you see only the top. And you think it's good. And we're trying to tell you there's a nasty undercurrent that will take you under and you'll never be seen again. But you think you know everything. You have to be able to pull my limited knowledge into subjection to the word, which has infinite knowledge. You and I ate from a tree about the knowledge of good and evil. Elohim's word created good and evil. There's a difference. We are not the same. We are not God like him. We are on Eretz. We are on Adoma, in dominion, in type, like he is over the universe. But we didn't make this world. We are discovering things in it every day. thinking that we are the inventors of it, giving ourselves this ridiculous amount of credit that disrespects him in every possible way. We did not create the stuff we're fighting against. And now he's telling us, be leery of this. I got it. I got it. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Okay. Understand sacrifice. It's going to cost you. Elohim sacrificed his only begotten son, yet whoever believed in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Abraham in Genesis 22, when he went to sacrifice Isaac, it was to show us the sacrifice. The father's in pain to do it. The son surely is in a condition of mind, but he knows that, okay, if daddy said this is it, then there's something great that's going to come out of this. The boy doesn't die. He lives through it. He understands the principle, and we get to type, and we get to know, and Abraham gets to feel what Yahweh is feeling when he has to give his son and put him in sinful flesh and watch that flesh he made for his son take a beating for stuff he didn't do. What didn't we understand about sacrifice? Because we think that sacrifice is cute, it's fun. If it's not coming out of something you need, or at least a part of your plan for sustainability, and it's not a real sacrifice. Because if you're giving out of your abundance, that's not a sacrifice, that's a gift. That's why when it comes to the times of the feasts, and I think it was Lindo and Pastor Spencer one year, another brother too, I'm not gonna call their name. They were like, yo, we were reading this, and I understand the wave offering, the lamb and the bread, but this part right here about the 7 lambs and the bullock, y'all think that wasn't a sacrifice for those families? But when they gave Yahweh that fruit, that first fruit, he was pruning their income streams. Why does he prune them? John 15 tells us, so that they will bring forth much more fruit. But you got to get past the sacrifice. And most of us die in the sacrifice. And because we give a gift, we think we complied. Make that a quote. Does that help anybody?
Amen. Spencer.
Thank you. I'm in a second,
Amen.
Spencer.
Yes.
Is that helping anybody? Are y'all getting this?
Hallelujah.
Or is this a waste of your time? Did you sacrifice your time to be here and hear this and now find out that there was nothing you can take away from this? I want you to realize sacrifice is that. How do I sacrifice? When I turn down my initial intention and will, because Yahweh's will says this. That's a sacrifice, because you have to choose to obey him. Here's another sacrifice. Y'all remember that one? Y'all love the quote, as for me and my house. Can anybody finish that?
We shall serve Yahweh.
We will serve the Lord. We will serve Yahweh. Okay. So here's what YAHShua said to those people. Here's what YAHShua said, not YAHShua HaMashiach, but YAHShua, son of Nun. This is what he said. He says, if it be pleasing, and I'll paraphrase because several translations are coming through my head right now, but if it be pleasing for you, now that you've crossed over into this promised land, and now that you got settled in what Yahweh promised Abraham, if you feel you want to go back and serve the demigods that he defeated when we left Egypt, you go right ahead because you have your right to choose. Yahweh kept his promise. We're in the promised land. Now, if you elders who think y'all know so much and think y'all get it, want to go back to serving those demigods and the gods of our forefathers, then you go right ahead. But as for me and my house, based on what he has shown me over these 40 years, based on what he showed me bringing me out of Egypt and Pesach, what he has shown me bringing me through and understanding Torah and now into the promise, as for me and my house, I know what you know about them demigods. I know what you know about making money that way. I know what you know about making allegiances and alliances and calling networks that way. I ain't doing it. I'm sacrificing my thoughts and what I learned through that system. I'm sacrificing to follow the writ. I'm casting down those imaginations and thoughts. See, Paul wasn't tripping. Paul didn't just make this up. Paul was coming off of a very well set template. Messiah said the same thing. If it be your will, let this cup pass from me. Never, when he said nevertheless, here is what he was saying. Never the lesser of the two wills at play, your spirit and my flesh. Never let the lesser of these two wills succeed. And the will of Elohim did, and the will of his flesh, which you and I operate out of too often, was now brought into subjection to the will of Elohim. Because he thought about what he could have did and let them people just suffer. Yahweh would have raised up another, do something different. But at the end of the day, Messiah, this is why we worship him. This is why we honor him. He did what many of us can't do. He pulled our socially justified thought into subjection to the not fully understand will of the Father, so that the will of the Father can be understood and done, even though we don't understand it. That's a sacrifice, and it can be painful because you might not see the results of it for years. So that tree, every branch that's in him that's bearing fruit, once he plucks that first fruit, you might not see fruit for a long time because there's an inner working inside the tree, expanding the capacity of the branch. The vine is pushing nutrient, and it takes a minute to get that from the root system up to the branch that bore that very first fruit. And before it bears any more fruit, he's going to make sure that that little spout that got cut off, the other spout next to it that got cut off, that first fruit clump that came off, he's going to make other areas and ports on that branch just like that one. But the branch has to be made stronger first. See, we don't like the process. So when that first fruit comes off of you, you think because it's a long time again before the next much more fruit comes. That's why patience is a virtue. Sacrifice is sacrifice. It's going to hurt you. It's going to vex you. It's going to grieve you. It ain't no pretty song. We sing the sacrifice of praise into, and we offer up to you the sacrifice. You don't sing that song like that until you've done it and understood it. You know what? You said you want this in the writ. You wanted this dove. You wanted this lamb. You wanted this bread. And I have been a recipient from the last time I did it, so I understand it better. It's still costing me, but I give you this. It's my praise to you, my sacrifice, this that you've asked for. I'm giving it to you because I know what you're going to do. Now you have a sacrifice of praise. You don't just praise him in advance. But we do things which make logical sense, but are spiritually inept. All righty, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down in a second. I have an announcement. I have a PSA coming up in just a second, but I'm going to let this question come forth from Pastor Spencer. Pastor Spencer, what you got?
Shalom, Apostle. I just need to take a deep breath for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Man, okay, let me just say, Rabbi Michelle in the chat put, I feel like my whole lip is busted with this word, but it's the truth. And to that, I want to say, Yahweh's love and his way of sacrificing doesn't work in our lips, in our mouth, or in our mind, but it works in our heart.
Mm.
And when we get that, we will be all the better for it. But I wanted to really speak to what you said about YAHShua. As for me and my house.
That's a decision.
And it's a decision, and it dovetails to what we are reading in 2 Corinthians. So you said earlier, and I hope that I get this right. You said earlier, if it's within our dwelling, it's part of our household. And if it's in our storehouse, it's part of our abundance.
Correct.
And when we see in 2 Corinthians 10:5, it says we demolish arguments and every high thing that is exalted itself and bringing every thought into the captivity. Our every thought is both within our dwelling and in our storehouse. So what does that tell us? We have some ideas, some goals, some visions, some aspirations that we have put a down payment on for our future prosperity, right? But based on our knowledge. Correct. Based on our knowledge. We've made a deposit in our storehouse, if you will, that is earning interest for us. But that is why we have to bring those aspirations, those thoughts, those visions, those goals, all of that we have stored up in our storehouse into captivity, because Yahweh wants it his way and not our way. And that was the revelation and the thought that I received when you were explaining that. So I yield.
Yahweh be praised. And it is a very real thing. When we don't understand what sacrifice is, and we allow ourselves to just move along with the repurposed phrases and words within Christendom that do not align with the core instruction of the Torah, we find ourselves doing things in a false hope, rendering a false sense of security, and then we wonder why nothing seems to be getting done. I can't read the chats, guys. I'm in a zone where Ruach is sharing in my head some things that I'm trying to get out to you all without offending, and it still seems that's going to happen no matter what, because Messiah didn't come to bring peace. He came to bring a sword. He came to bring a divider. That same sword is his word, dividing asunder marrow from joint, dividing asunder soul from spirit. And there's a lot of spirits that have attached to your soul through your religious affiliations and understandings of principles of good. And now we're brandishing them as if they're principles of God. Well, at least the God of Elohim, the God Elohim, the God of Israel, the God of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And they're not. And because they're just good things to do, we go along with them and we work them and we play with them, and oh, they're good. Everything is good. You know, God knows our heart. He does. And he knows that our heart can be very disobedient. And that's why Paul wrote down in this passage back to 2 Corinthians chapter number 10, verse number 5, casting down imagination and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim, and bringing the captivity every thought to the obedience of Messiah, meaning the word. Verse 6 says, and having in readiness to revenge all disobedience once our obedience is fulfilled. Once our obedience is fulfilled. Once our obedience is lived out, we now have a readiness in our mind and our heart to help others and ourselves with what it truly looks like sacrificially to be obedient. We have a readiness to revenge all disobedience. And that starts with us. And we get ourselves out here in these investments, and we get ourselves out here in these platforms, and we get ourselves out here in these churches, we get ourselves out here in these arenas of business that are not Elohim. And then when they crash and clumps and collapse, we want God to bail us out. And that's why Yahweh told them in the Tanakh, he says, go ask the gods you followed into that mess to get you out. That's what Yahweh wants us to understand. And we are not, just because you're post-crucifixion, we're not exempt. We must be like Messiah was. You want to go out there and you say, God said this? First off, what God? And before you put Ruach's name on something, be very careful you don't use his name in vain, because that will come back to get you. And just because you keep thinking it in your head, and this has got to be God, I keep thinking it. No, he's trying to get you to run it through the word. Once you run it through the word and you come out with 2 or 3 witnesses and they are of the writ, now you may have a chance to say, Elohim revealed this. And this is that process. And you're going to get a witness. And when anyone else hears it that has that same mentality to filter everything through the word, they're going to get a witness. Now you have, yeah, I back you in faith. This is the method of Elohim. Well, just because you don't see it don't mean that we don't see that God, that it ain't what God said. No, that's true. But Elohim has a method of operation, and he does not depart from that. Well, this is a new day, and God is going to do a new thing. I will do a new thing in you. Yes, the new thing is not new to him. It's new to you because you just finally obeyed him. We have to stop this Tom and Thomasina foolery. Kingdom and Christendom are on 2 different levels. Christendom sells, propagates, confesses kingdom, but never possesses it. Thus the phrase, having a form of godliness, but denying the very power thereof. That's an indictment that should make all of us bow our heads.
Wow.
All right, everybody, that was the purpose of the word we had today for you guys on the preceding word, sacrifice. What did we not understand about sacrifice? It's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something significant because Yahweh wants to get you something significant. If he can't remove and take this from you so that he can use that same portal to bring what is needed for you and so many more out of you, just because you can get a little bit of fruit don't mean you've arrived. That first fruit is not your arrival. That first fruit is your introduction. That first fruit is bitter, and anybody eating that first fruit is going to choke. It's going to be bland. It's going to be tart. It's going to be so full of the pre-fruit that anybody eating that be like, I don't want that fruit. You know what? I don't want that tree. They're going to walk away from you because you're thinking, I've been in incubation all this time, and now it's time for me to come forth. See, my fruit is showing. See, I got a leaf now. Be patient, people. Trust me. There's so many other nutrients that the vine will bring you once the Father, Yahweh, takes that first showing of your fruit off. So your fruit after this will be edifying, and everybody will brag about the fruit they got off that tree. But you're in a rush to let your fruit be seen because you thought the process of bearing fruit ended when you had your first fruit. It just begins, and you still have to let the vine push nutrients up the branch, up the bark, up the tree, and push it into your branch so that now you have other outlets that will produce clusters, and they will be more sweeter. They will be more nutritious. They will be better tasting and more palatable. And anyone, be it beast or man, will be like, yo, where that tree at again? Don't let your first fruits, because you finally got a revelation, you think you understand something. Don't let your first, oh, I just saw that in the word, I'm going to go preach this, I'm going to go teach this. But don't let your first time coming out of an experience. When I got out of my addictions, I couldn't just go run and preach coming out of addictions. I had to learn how to stay out of my addiction. Whoa. Right. And then once I learned how to stay out of my addiction over the years, it became a place anybody struggling with, I struggled with, could tell, hey, you've been where I've been, haven't you? Yeah, I have. How are you staying out? Well, here's what I know. Now, before you take that and think that because you've been doing something for a period of time, you got reveal on it. You've been specifically working on that thing for a period of time that gives you what you need. And it will be backed up by the methodology of the writ. That's the importance of the testimony. That's how we overcome. But it ain't going to be from your first show. See, I got victory. Look, I got victory. I got the victory. Hallelujah. Woo-hoo. I got the victory. Hallelujah. And you run around thinking you got the victory. And as soon as you think you do, the enemy and your enemy of your faith is going to bust you in your face, make you eat your words, because you thought you knew every aspect of victory to keep you from falling victim again. It takes time. It takes that branch who has that fruit taken off of it time to get the root system to force nutrients to that branch, embolden that branch, make that branch thicker, make that branch longer, make that branch more enduring. You work the inner workings first, and then you'll start seeing all those other branches start to push forth fruit like the first part, not branches, the other ports in that branch starting to push forth like that branch, the first port did. Now that branch is vetted, and that fruit is what you use. Just let that sink in. You don't have to say amen. You don't have to say apostle that blessed me. You don't have to. Let it sink in. And remain humble. I don't think people realize that humility is demonstrated in patience. And if you're not patient, then you're not operating in humility, no matter how much you claim, I'm humble. Matter of fact, the fact that you got to say I'm humble is proof you're not. You're selling it again. You're selling what the kingdom says, but you don't possess it. Be it first. And you'll never have to put up an advertisement. People will seek you out for it because they saw you walk by and they smelled your aroma. They sensed your aura. And they'll come seek you. They'll find you. You won't even know how they'll find you. That's why we are called DKM, Darash Kingdom Ministries. We don't advertise anything. You came because you stumbled up on this place. And you haven't left because you're being quickened. We don't advertise here. Great segue, Yahweh. I appreciate you for that. Did anybody have a comment they wanted to make? I've got a time for one comment or question before I transition into and segue into my PSA today.
Spencer.
All right. Anyone else?
Michelle.
Who is Michelle? Okay, Michelle, I heard your name. I don't know who you are, but okay, Michelle, I'm glad to have you with us.
It's Rabbi Michelle.
Hey.
What I look like.
It don't matter. I'm just glad to have you no matter what. All right. Pastor, I got two. Spencer, go. You go first.
Sure. I just wanted to make a clarification when I shared Apostle Michelle's statement. I was not coming for her.
No, it didn't come out that way.
I want to clear that up because it may have sound. Listen, this apostle, this prophet, this woman of God has my ear, and I love her to life, and she knows that. But for the enemy who would maybe try and put something in the minds of people, when she said that she feels as though her lip has been busted, I was making a generality that this is what the word says. We honor Yahweh with our lips, but our heart is far from it. And so that's why I was saying his love doesn't work in the lip, the heart, the mind, but in the heart. And I just wanted to clarify that. I love you, Apostle Michelle. I love you more.
I love that. So, let me share this with you. You're conveying her thought in the chat, which I didn't see. Did not come off in any way, shape, or form as antagonizing anything she said. It was a matter of fact, you were like, yeah, not just my lip, but my eye and my forehead and my gut. Can somebody get me a tissue? So yes. All right. Thanks for trying to get that. Well, feeling you needed to clear that up, but it was clearly not the issue on this end. All right. Michelle, go. You're welcome to the platform. Shalom to you.
Thank you. Shalom, shalom. And Pastor Spencer, I know this is a safe place, and I appreciate you even taking the time to apologize or clear up. It really wasn't necessary. My statement is, Apostle.
We're going to have fun. I see it already. Go ahead.
This is where, and if I could just be transparent and quick, this is where I struggle because I sit, I study, I've been studying this way for a while. I started following you last year this time. And I reached out to you about the feasts and the monetized and so forth because, I feel like we can never get in a place where what we learned about Adonai is concrete. I feel like we get stuck in those places, and you said so much in this lesson, but what busts us in the lip is that we even have to be careful as teachers and people who are trying to share what the Most High shares with us, that we don't get to the place where we're unteachable from Ruach HaKodesh.
Come on.
Because, we have this understanding, but, I'm still conflicted because I'm like, okay, I'm not by myself. I'm so thankful for this group. I know it's a safe place. But I feel like it's warfare. So when you were saying about the sacrifice, that's warfare. If we walk in any church and tell them that, they're going to kick us out.
Absolutely.
It's the truth.
Absolutely. And woman of Elohim, listen, I want to be very clear about this, Rabbi Michelle. Listen, we are so caught up in warfare because of how Christendom structured it with the whole Leviathan and the spirit of incubus and succubus and all these other principalities and powers and spirits and whatnot. If you are in Messiah, you're not fighting.
Wow. Amen.
If you're not in Messiah, you are prey. If you are in Messiah, the warfare is not with the enemy out there, it's with the inner me. Trying to put what I think is best for me and what I have gone to school to learn as a discipline, or what I have cataloged as my experiences in life. And though they may all be good and great tools and instruments to be used, and maybe could benefit and edify people, we think that we are to move on that without checking with him.
Yes, sir.
And so the warfare is us not giving over our mind to the word and letting the word take the reins of our mind. That's the only war I fare in. It has taken me a long time to understand that. I don't fight against you, flesh and blood, whoever you are, whatever presents itself to me. I'm not fighting that pulchritude. There is a principality and a power behind that. And if you are in constant disagreement in your own house with pulchritude, then that's a spiritual thing. And that means that our spirits are not in the same place as Elohim. And a house divided against itself cannot stand. And people always like to say, we agree to disagree. The devil is a liar. And smoking crack in your kitchen, and you need to get the fire department, and you better get him out your house. Because YAHShua's not coming to take him out. You let him cook crack in your kitchen. You put him out. You open the door, you kick him out, and you say, YAHShua, can you please come in? I need some help cleaning up from the mess that I gave the last landlord authority over me with.
Wow.
So if you're telling me that we don't agree, then how can two walk together?
Yes, sir.
So true.
That means that one of us doesn't see Elohim the same way. And that's cool. We all got to answer to him one day. But as long as I'm walking according to this word and I can prove everything in it, I'm not taking chances of some mystical piece I'm trying to pull out the atmosphere and bring it in and say, see, we can do this. Won't we? No, I'm not dressing that with nothing. The word don't need no chaser. It don't need no Coke. It don't need no Sprite. It don't need no high C. It don't need no grapefruit juice. It don't need nothing. The word is the word, no chaser. See, that's why y'all ain't gonna never do nothing. We ain't trying to do nothing other than make his praise glorious in the earth. And there is order to that. There is process we must participate in. And when you deviate from instruction, you're in obedience, you're in disobedience. There's no way you can change that. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principality and power and ruler of darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness in high places. And when you adapt to a school, if you go to a school of higher education and you went to that school because you researched that school, and that school has the discipline you want to be degreed in, and it has the renowned professors. The worst thing that many of us ever do is meet our heroes, because then you don't just hear their profound and prolific statements, you hear the opposite side of the pendulum and the opposite side of the coin of them as well. But when you have researched out of school and you've researched out that particular discipline you want to be degreed in, and then you sit in that class that you researched and said you needed, and then you stand up and you fight against the professor, the school ain't out of order.
Come on.
You are.
That's right.
And now you want to fight with the professor? Einstein, one of my favorite characters of life, loves Elohim. Brilliant man. Most of our great men battle with Alzheimer's. And if you ever do any type of research that I do, certifications that I have require this so that we understand our modern day people, present day time. If you don't know the history, you don't know your past, you don't know where you are, and you don't know how to get where you're trying to go because you don't know where you're going. But Einstein did something that makes this point I brought up valid. Einstein went to class at a school he was made to go to. The professor was antagonistic towards his personal beliefs and where he had come from. And he was against the existence of Elohim. And they had an argument. So Einstein then made it clear that I can sort of kind of prove he exists using your own syllabus. I'm paraphrasing the storyline. And he does. The professor is insulted because he's embarrassed. But he stands his ground because he does not want to, he wants to save face. The school kept backing the professor. Einstein left the school. Now, at that time, Einstein was young. So the professor is the one with the clout. He's the one with the tenure. Well, you and I know at the end of it how this played out with Einstein and his status in society. Clearly, he was far wiser than the professor, who would not bend even though proven wrong. If you're in a school and you don't agree with the professor, you have to go where a school believes like you.
And I did.
You understand that, right?
Yes, sir.
And most people, I wasn't dropping that at you. I was using it as a teaching moment in general.
No, but it's true. It's true,
Yeah.
no, Apostle. It's absolutely what happened.
Because what you will do is you will just continue to garner strife in that place. If you're not teaching the same thing that professor has on the board and you're teaching contrary to that, you are divisive. And you're intentionally divisive. And there's nothing worse than someone being divisive and thinking it's okay. And more importantly, thinks it's okay to be that way. Just on GP. That's a bigger problem that we have. And in Christendom, we do it. You can't change an establishment. You can only change you. And if you came into an establishment that was established before you ever got there, you don't change it. You know what not to do based on your personal conviction, and then you remove yourself from it. You can't force anybody to be what you want. This is why we don't advertise for people. We don't advertise for your presence. We don't inbox you. We don't email you. We don't invite you. We don't Eventbrite you. We don't send any type of back channel, any kind of emails. We don't use an email list here. If you got here on word of mouth. And if you're still here, you found a place where you can eat. You have found 7,000 like you who have not bowed knee to Baal. You've enjoyed what you're here doing. We do not cultivate, or I should say, coddle for your presence. We don't pat you on the back or the head or rub your shoulders trying to be mommy and daddy to you to keep you. We're here to raise you to be soldiers and fellows in a ship to get a job done. We're not here to make friends. We prefer there be no friends. We need to be here about our Father's business, not a volleyball game. And so at the end of the day, this is what we do in this ministry. So if you, in fact, find that that is not what you now desire, then you need to find what you actually are looking for. We know we teach truth, and you may know we teach truth. But if the truth we teach, and it always does, after a while, can I give y'all an analogy of something? Is that all right if I give y'all an analogy of something?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I need more people than those three. They the ones been talking to me all day. Anybody else out there that ain't said nothing? Care to hear an analogy?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if you are in a place, everybody who comes into revelation, when you first get the revelation, it's wow. Oh my God. Are you freaking kidding me? It was there the whole time, and we have fun with it. And for a period of time, you are enjoying it. You love it. And like I tell everybody, and anybody been with me for these several decades know that I'll always make this clear. You know, everybody's talking, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. You got to stop saying that, because you love people until you don't. Now, if you love the way Elohim loves, you love unconditionally. I have learned to love unconditionally. Even if you no longer love me after you told me you do love me, I still will love you to benefit and see the best of you. You may get a longer spoon, but I will never see you hurting, and I will never see your name drug in the mud. I will never see you ridiculed and chastised by anybody. I will always look to cover you, even if you've been stabbing me in the back and all the other garbage that goes along with our way of communicating in this world today, both within Christendom and within secular beings, secular spaces, or family settings for that matter. But people always come in, oh, this is so deep, this is so dynamic. And after a while, you start gravitating to the thinking process, and you think that you now have exceeded your teacher. And like any child to a parent, you start thinking that you know better than mom and dad. Now, mom and dad sacrificed to get you to college because they don't have the education you got, but don't let the education they sacrificed their lives to get you, because they didn't get, make you think you understand life better. They're trying to get you more tools that they didn't have, because understanding life would have been easier for them if they got those tools earlier, which is why they got you those tools as early as you did in your life. Do not think you're smarter because they helped you get tools sooner. Whoa! So what happens oftentimes is you're enamored by what you first hear. And like I tell everybody, again, you love it till you don't, because they'll come in and they all on fire. But then when the practical starts to really meet the road, it's not just theory and concept you're being exposed to, but now it's compelling you to live it. And even if you think that you are living it, but then it checks you to let you know you're not living it. And then when it gets checked and you are then checked by another, particularly whoever may be your teacher, and they say, hey, look, the homework is wrong. Like, it ain't wrong. I was up all night and all week. This is other stuff out here to learn too. There's some other stuff over here to learn and understand other, and all that right there. That's all gravy. But this homework for this class is wrong. Well, I don't believe that. Okay, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe that the sun is in the sky, but it is. At the end of the day, it's all Gucci, all gravy until we have to live it. And we love to talk about the order of Elohim. We love to talk about the process of his excellency. But when it comes, we have to live it ourselves. When I mess up, because I'm not a perfect man, and I mess up in thought. Sometimes I mess up in deed if I don't kill that thought quick enough. Sometimes I mess up in theory. I mess up in study. And I have to be, as Rabbi Michelle said it, I have to remain teachable. But just because the professor or the teacher brings you up to the front of the class and may refer to you several times to help answer or maybe oversee a class, the two of you are not at the same level. And that's where immaturity shows. So now the teacher has to say, hey, look, chill for a second. Now the other students in the class are being upset because you coming at them like you in charge and all of this. Relax. You're doing great. Just keep learning. And now you find that to be a strike at you and you go back and forth. See, I know this because I did it. And I'm so grateful for my apostle. And I try to demonstrate the same compassion that they had towards me. Brilliant mind I was in their eyes. I was used by them to help in times they couldn't be there. And then I got twisted thinking I was in charge. And then when they checked me about it, I got upset with them. Wouldn't do it out loud, but in the back of my head, who they is to think, man, who did.
Come on.
But then my demonstrations began to show. I'm making things and doing things on my own that's not sanctioned and coming through them. And now I'm supposed to be a part of this. And I'm really, if you're not listening to your teacher, if you're not listening to your commander in chief, if you're not listening to them who have rule over you in the earthen realm, then you're not in that group. If you're not listening to the parents in their own home that they have sacrificed to give you safety and a cover and food and water and security and education and internet and pay for your phone, your car insurance, gave you a car, got you educated, and done all these other things. And at the point when you think you can run the parents' house, you need to go get your own.
Wow. That's the truth.
Yes, sir.
Because you're not on the same page. And you have that right. But no parent's going to let you stay in that house knowing we said no smoking, knowing we said no drinking, knowing we said no company after a certain hour, and you, because you grown, came through college that we paid for you to get, and now coming back to this house and sitting in this house eating the food that we have, and we still have those rules. We check in by 11 p.m. Well, I'm grown, I ain't got to check in. No, we do, because I need to make sure you're good. I'm not going to check you down and all that like that, but that's just a common courtesy. Now, you have been doing that all up until now. You done met a couple friends out there and you think you know more. Those friends don't want, those friends want what they're seeing on you. They didn't grow that on you. They want what they see on you, and they're going to strip you of that.
Woo.
That's why they want you. That's why they praise you. That's why they applaud you. They wasn't a part of growing it on you. You were stabilized here. And what came out of that stabilization is what you're showing out there. And they just want what you're showing. They don't want nothing to care anything about you, just what you present. And now they done hyped your head up and got you gassed up. And now all of a sudden you want to come back in here and tell us how to maintain what we were helping you to grow. That was you, because we studied to know what is in you and how to bring what's in you out. Even though it looks familiar to other people in other places, you're different, you're unique. We found out through chemistry, we found out through physicians, we found out through psychology and psychiatrists how to best render the true nectar of you out. And then people are seeing that now that it's coming out of you with a little bit more ease. And that's what they want. They're like, oh, that's a treasure. And all they want is what you're showing. And then you're going to show your butt to the place that helped to groom that out of you. And those who are robbing you know nothing about maintaining it, because once they pluck that fruit off of you, they don't know how to help you get that fruit back. And you give your butt to the very house that not only showed you how that fruit comes out of you, but how to continually quicken it within you. At that point, that parenthood has to say, it's time for you to go, because you're going to cause friction in this house, because you're clearly an adult now. And my job was to raise you into becoming a responsible citizen of society. And once we've raised you to be a responsible citizen of society, prayerfully, you'll stay in our society to make our civilization a commonwealth, and all the benefits that you have been nurtured in benefit the community. And you can stay here as long as you are in compliance. But if you're not in compliance and you think you can run this house better, which raised you, reared you, showed you what it is. Now, if you think technology can take you to a different place and we don't comply with that here, or we need to learn how to do it, please have the patience with us to do that. But if you think that because we didn't obey what you said to do, you need to go have your own place because you need that autonomy. Or if you're letting some other group and grow up and have your ear and tell you what to do, and all they're going to do is take what you have, you need to go there. You can't stay here. You poison this house and you poison your own trough. You stagnate your own growth. So if you feel that you are going to do better and greater elsewhere, you're free to do that. And that is something that when my apostle sat me down and told me this, I had to come back to her and say, I wasn't in it. Mine wasn't that deep. I've just been doing this for decades, and I've had a lot of people that I've had to deal with about this. But you got to understand, every one of us in the kingdom, that a house divided against itself cannot stand. If mom and dad become grandmom and granddad, grandmom and granddad's words in that house are what get carried to every generation after them. If they're changed or augmented, they're explained and understood. And when grandmom and granddad, the patriarchs and the matriarchs, say, hey, listen, guys, we're shifting this way. We found some new great information. Here is what that is, but it goes still in alignment with what the coursing is. But if you're not still a part of that, then you're dividing the house. But we still love you. You can still love us, but that division causes us to be suspect, to being compromised. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Two cannot walk together except they agree. And if you think that, well, we gonna disagree on things. No, we're not gonna disagree, because I'm trying to find out what you think, and until we come to an understanding. But we're never gonna continue to disagree, because if we disagree too much, then we don't agree. And two can't walk together except they agree. Does that make sense, Zion?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Amen. Yes, it does. Amen. Yes, it does.
So if you get hired into a company and that company is doing A, B, C, and D, and you're coming in and you're changing B out for X. And that company doesn't like what X is. And though you may think we can use X, and we don't agree that X should be in this place. And since this is our company, it was established before you, then you have to take X and put X into a different component. And we can maybe make some kind of an outsource for that. But A, B, C, and D is what we do here. That's what we do. That's the bedrock. You can't change that. You can go start your own. And we would pray your success. And if it fails, you still can come back here. But when you come back here, we still do A, B, C, D, and E. We may have added F by the time you came back, but the organization added F. People don't like that conversation because we don't know how to take it without being in our feelings. But if two don't agree, they cannot walk together. That's in the word. That's not an ego. You can't defend it. If we don't agree, we don't agree. I'm still going to love you, care for you, want the best for you, want to understand what you're looking at, the way you're looking at it. Help me understand what you're looking at. Now, if I listen to you and I hear what you're saying, it doesn't line up with our concrete word that establishes every word, I have the right to say it doesn't line up with the writ. It does. You just don't understand it. It doesn't. I hear you twice. You've said it, and you've yet to give me the writ. And when I think of what you're saying, here are the passages that go along with the writ to buck up against what you're saying. So that's a conflict. We can't do that until Yahweh makes it clear. You may be onto something, but don't run with it until we can solidify it. And we have to do that as a team. But if you start teaching that which does not line up with the writ inside of my house with my grandchildren and my nieces and my nephews and my sons and my daughters, that's usurping authority. That's a divisive spirit. If we say that steak is in the refrigerator and it's cut in 12-ounce portions, but you bring home liver and tell my family that liver is steak, and we can prove to you that liver is not steak, that liver may have come from the same place that steak came from, but this is steak and that is liver. And to show, so you save face, okay. And then when I leave and go away for 2 months and come back, and now you've got my children's children, when they come over to grandmom's house, and you've been left to sort of kind of fill in while we're gone. And now they come back and say, Dad, Granddad, here goes some steak. I'm like, son, that's liver. No, that's steak. And I know exactly where that came from. Does anybody find that healthy or unhealthy?
Unhealthy.
Unhealthy.
So make it your business to always stay in alignment with where you are. The moment you find, no matter how much you may love and care for, that we don't see things the same way, that's fine. As for me and my house, we're going to serve Elohim this way. If you want to do it differently, I'm sure there's another piece of land down the street. You can erect a place where you can dwell. I'll even come and help you build and make sure you're insulated right. At least make sure your building is straight. Now, the content of your house, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to leave you out in the rain. I'm not going to leave you out without food. I'm not going to leave you without protection. We are not going to act like we agree. And then because you have my name attached to you, have people who believe and trust in what we've been teaching follow you. That's a problem. That's also called theft. Y'all know my name? My name is Apostle V.W. Jones. I didn't know if y'all knew who I was.
Really?
And homie, don't play that. So I want to be very clear to you. All of our moderators that are here on this platform today, we love you to life eternal. Whatever you're doing, I want to be a part of it. I want to make sure that you are growing within it and understanding how life goes. But what we're seeing is, I know that C. Marie has a room. I know that Miss Wanda has a room. Pastor Spencer, Leslie, all of you have your rooms. Minister Wanda, Jackie has a room. Roundtree has a room. I think all of those who are moderators, Brother Greg has his own thing. I want to make sure everybody understands this in the PSA, and this is coming directly from me, and I'll be talking more about this amongst DRM. DKM later on, just for the sake of order, we always do. But I want to be very clear in case anybody who happens to be, Clubhouse has added a new element to us. And I need someone who's a citizen of this Kingdom Post to answer this question for me. Has VWJ Ministries or DKM Ministries ever sent you an email blast to do anything outside of what we do when y'all join us?
Janet Linda, no, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
Never. So we operate that way because many years ago, people would have you come to church, you fill out an offering envelope, they get your email address, and all of a sudden they did the thing that you see done now where people make a lot of money. And what they would do is use your email address and then send you invitations to events that they would have later as a way of churning you into another component where they could extract from you whatever your resource may be, whether it's money or time or support to an event. We do not do that here. I don't send invitations to anybody. Our ministry doesn't send invitations to anybody. If you are a part of our group, you know what we're doing. If we're going to have something that we do, I make it on our platforms. It will be an announcement. You will be responsible for logging that in. Now, we got some people who do some wonderful things. Wanda is wonderful with hair. C. Marie does some things. Regina cooks like crazy. Roundtree does other things with other groups and other programmings. Spencer, she's a teacher and a half, so she does different things. But to our moderators and to anybody, just because a person is a moderator on my screen does not mean that I endorse what they do. So if you get an invitation on this platform or from a member of this platform that I have not highlighted on the platform, do not assume that, one, it has, if they say they're under our cover, my sanction. Not that I'm God, but if you're a part of this house, we operate a certain way. So to all who are on platform with us, all who are in this space that we care about and we love, no moderator has a right using my name or Spencer's name or any other moderator's name on platform, dropping name to get you to come and support their event. We will support any person within the kingdom, but we will not do it by the means of standardized Christian advertising or secular advertising. That's why we're called Darash Kingdom Ministries. You found us because you were searching for something. You didn't get an advertisement from us. So if anyone dropping my name on other platforms, in other rooms, the fact that they dropped my name means that they don't know me. I don't name drop. And if I don't name drop and you are a part of the citizenship, then you shouldn't name drop. And if you are name dropping, then that becomes a problem. So if any person that you've never known and you've only known them by virtue of DKM, VWJ, Preceding Word, Bible Book Club, Maranatha Sabbath service, or our Sabbath midrashes, if you only know them through that vein, there should not be a comfortable note in them to send you an invite to anything that they are doing if you don't have your own personal relationship with that person. And if I have any moderators sending anything to any person from our platforms, you are out of order. And I do not condone it. I condemn it publicly right now. It is the right thing. Whatever I have, I lend to anyone, but rightly. You don't have right to just start arbitrarily sending information to people that you see in a room, on YouTube, on Facebook, who you saw in this room or any of our particular outlets. If you don't have a relationship with that person, ask if you can advertise it here. If it meets the protocols of this ministry, we will gladly advertise it for you. But do not. I don't care who you are, who your mom is, who your dad is, who anybody is in your life. This ministry that oversees all of these other ministries, we do not operate that way. You have an event you'd like to have advertised, you come through the administration. We will make space, no charge to you, if it fits the protocol, and we will advertise it with you, with our people, and I will endorse it. But do not use people who come into this space because they love what we teach and because you are at the front of the class and you have a green bean to think that you can just send information to the entire class. You do not have that permission. My name is Apostle V.W. Jones of VWJ Ministries and DKM Ministries. I oversee 27 other ministries. That's a lot of people. We don't fleece them. We do not churn them. They are here to learn the gospel and it alone. Any other identities that you might want to put to it, find your own platform for that, or come to me and talk about how we can integrate it into this one if it meets the protocols and the standards. So I say this PSA, public service announcement, that if you didn't hear it here in this space and my name is dropped about an event and that I cover them and he's my apostle and all of that, the fact that you heard those words means that I am not their apostle. Because none of the people I train up and mentor would ever do that. I rest my PSA announcement on that point. Do you all understand me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, to all of our moderators, Brother Ben, you're out there as well. You guys provide services to the community. Wanda, you do. All you, Roundtree, you do. Michelle, you do. All of you that do, understand that is the protocol of this ministry in this house. It does not get deviated from. And I want to support anything that you're doing. But it must be done rightly. All right. So that's what we had to say today. Now, back to the preceding word. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. All righty. To those of you who are already in your Shabbat, I pray Yahweh keep you and help you continue your Shabbat to stay focused on the written, the Torah today as well. When I get in later on, we're going to join in with you as well. I got to get to a funeral before the day is over, and I got to get some business done. So I got to get off of here. But it's always a joy and a pleasure to be with you and to share with you and understand that all I want to know of you, I am determined to know nothing more of you save Messiah and him crucified. One of the big things we've made and don't realize is a problem. Though we may believe in Elohim, you are in his kingdom to till his ground. That means start by making sure you are good depth of ground, good soil, properly pH'd, balanced in his word, so that others who might, like tumbleweed, just blow in and happen upon that lot, they in their dryness can get some moisture from you. And we all in that community can add moisture to them and help them to know how to be as moist and good ground for good seed to fall deep inside of them to produce fruit for the kingdom. That's what we do here. I am not perfect. No one is. But we do push for perfection of making sure we filter mistakes, errors, failures, sin through the word. And as long as we're alive, pray Yahweh gives us opportunity to get back in should we go outside of the lines and the bounds of his command. He doesn't shoot his wounded. He wants to heal them. And this is what we should be looking towards. Well, I've got to get going. Remember, we've got the feast coming up on Sivan 6. That's May 25th of this year at sundown. That will be the feast of Hag Shavuot, also known in the English as the Feast of Weeks, also known as the giving of the Torah, a celebration of Yah's word of instruction for his kingdom in the earth to be made manifest through. And let us all pray to be here for that celebration and that liberation of our lives. Remembering that that day will be on the 25th Sivan, 25th of May, rather, at sundown. That is Sivan the 6th. And we want to make sure that we are here for that, in place for that. We'll be right here waving the offering. The wave offering for that day is 2 lambs and 2 leavened loaves of bread. You want to be a part of that? Contact us. We'll be talking about it more on our Sabbath Midrash. And of course, this Morrow After Sabbath service, we're going to tell you the practicalities of that day in the Morrow After Sabbath service on Sunday. Hope to see you here and there as well. Those of you who are with us on platform, both in Clubhouse, if you can help us try to reestablish the Clubhouse room, please make sure that you actually like the room. Look to join the Proceeding Word. Look to join the Bible Book Club. Look to join Morrow After Sabbath service, which is DKM, Darash Kingdom Ministry. It's black with gold lettering. Proceeding Word is white paneling with blue lettering. And the Bible Book Club is an antique-ish looking scroll on a brownish, bronzish type of setting. It's called the Bible Book Club. Then you have the Proceeding Word in blue. Then you have the Darash Kingdom Ministry, which covers our Morrow After Sabbath and our Bible studies on midweek. So if you join those houses, I'd love to make you members. And you found us. We didn't advertise to you. We do not advertise. We do not advertise. Your testimony of how the word here has changed you is the only advertisement that will ever be pushed forward. And then you act like the woman at the well. Come see a man. Come see this. Come get this word that's shown me so much about what I am and who I am and what's going to happen. Father, we thank you for the time, the space, and the place. We ask you to be with, in, through, and toward us for your name's sake, and praise those that are already in your Shabbat. Ooh, continue to hold them, continue to keep them, continue to embrace them, continue to share with them, continue to tell them how much you love them by virtue of them complying and delighting in your word. And those of us that will be entering in from the continental US of A and the Caribbean islands and that entire strip, we look forward and we labor to enter in, which is why I want to get off of this platform, Father, and go finish business so I can be on time when Sabbath kicks in at sundown. I ask you now, Father, as we hasten unto you, that you would give us space to know you. Please. We've sinned, we've erred, we've made mistakes. We're coming to you to be reset, to be retooled, to be refashioned, to be renewed. And we're going to do everything we can do not to walk out of your boundaries again. Keep us within your stock. This we ask. Man, don't live by bread, but by every word that proceeds out of your word. We eat the whole loaf. Even when it is bitter to our mouth, it will be sweet to our belly. We trust you in the name of YAHShua HaMashiach. All right, everybody, I'm going to let you guys go. I got one last announcement we want you to know and hope that you will be able to join us back here sometime tonight around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you've joined the house of DKM, you will get advertisements of only when we're going live. That's all we do. All right. And if you're in DKM or you're in the houses, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, you will know what we're doing every day. We don't send you separate email blasts. We don't send you anything different. We only share. And if you're here, you know about it. If you don't, then you're not here. So that means you're not about this life. So that's just that simple for us. We ain't going nowhere. We'll be here until Yahweh returns. And that's just the way it is. All right. Hope y'all.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this message has been a blessing to your very life and your soul, and more importantly, your walk with the King. Well, we have come to the end. I hope that you would consider becoming either a partner with us in ministry, or if you're not already a kingdom citizen, consider becoming one. By doing that, you can sow into this ministry so that we are able to continue to teach this type of ministry at a grand scale. Join us on all of our social media platforms and visit our webpage to make your contributions sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Shalom Aleichem.
If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken. If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken.